So the theme is automation and tooling, and there's two different things I wanted to talk about, and it's completely unrelated, both of them, with each other. First one is a small tool that I developed for myself a few months ago, and I thought could be useful to others. So I'm going to quickly show you, and then I'm going to talk about Xcode templates. So the first thing I'm going to show you is, let's say you have an, can you see anything? Not so much. Maybe that's a bit better, like this. Yeah. Okay, so you have a standard project and you need to put some app icons, and either you have a designer that cut all the right sizes for you and hopefully also have a good naming convention that makes sense, but every time it changes, it's a lot of work. And you have third-party tooling that can do that for you as well. But the few ones that I've tried, they ask you to say which sizes you want. So you kind of double up on the effort, because all the sizes you need are actually detailed here in a JSON with which device it's for, the size, and the scale. So I wanted to write a tool that would just read that JSON and cut all these assets for you. So let's try and do that. So you navigate to your project. So we're here on the desktop, the template project, whatever. And you have here some icons. No, we don't have the icons. Let's say you get the app icons from the designers, and you put them here in your project. And you use a tool that I've named Cookie, because I'm really good with names, and it's kind of a cookie cutter for assets. So all you do is, if you're in the right folder in your terminal, you just ask Cookie to say, grab an icon in app icon, and you can see that the designers have a really good naming convention. App icon final v2. So you just do that, and Cookie looks for an .app icon set, realize there's 9 images, and feeds them into Xcode for you. And that's all you need to do. And now let's imagine that some business people come and say, oh, we need to support iPad, and also CarPlay, and Apple Watch 1, and the Mac. So you have heaps more. And then they come up with a new icon blue final this time. And yeah, it just does it for you, all the sizes that you need. And the naming convention is based on the JSON, so it's all names that kind of make sense. iPad, how do we do that? So this one would be the 2020, and Mac 32 at 1x, Mac 32 as 2x. So it just renames and puts them all for you, and put everything in the JSON. So basically, in a matter of a second, you have your 32 icons set. And that's pretty much all I have to show you. If you want to use that, it's called Cookie, with a really good README that helps you understand how to use it. What's good about that is, so Cookie is the command line tool, but the logic of reading the JSON, parsing it, understanding it, and resizing the assets, and then feeding them back into, all of that is extracted away into a framework. So if you want to build a GUI app, you could use just the framework asset resizer with a really good descriptive name. And yeah, you could build a GUI app. You could build like an iPhone app. I don't know why you would do that, but you can. Yeah, so if you're interested in that, just check asset resizer or Cookie, and you could automate your cookie cutting. That was the first part of the things I wanted to show you. That one of the tools that I've used and has saved me. I wrote that 2 months ago, and it's already saved me probably a few hours, because sometimes I just want to try different icons, and if I had to cut them all the time, that would be annoying. So now I'm going to talk about Xcode templates, completely unrelated, but, and I need to unmirror that. All right, so that was Cookie Cutter and Asset Resizer. And now we're going to talk about Xcode file templates. So that was supposed to be a lightning talk, and I thought there's not much to say about Xcode templates. But it's actually, there's a few interesting things, and because it's not really documented, it's a lot of tinkering and trying and changing things. So Xcode templates, that's the thing you would use if you create a new file and you go through this kind of wizard thing. Did you know you can create your own? It's as simple as creating a .exe template folder with some conditions. So first, why would you want to do that? Why do you want to create your own Xcode template? Basically, what's an Xcode template? It's just a pre-configured file. But if you want something more advanced, you could say that a Xcode template, file template, is a set of files with a little bit of configuration that you could put in it. And so you could slightly configure the boilerplate that you get. So let's see, how do you do that? How do you get started with that? That's where you start. That's the location where you start. If you want to create an Xcode file template, you need to tell Xcode where to look for Xcode templates, and that's the location where Xcode would look. And inside that file templates, you can create your own grouping, and then in your grouping, you can put as many templates as you want. So here, again, very good namings, my custom templates, and a basic template. So that's the most basic thing is, let's imagine that you're creating a lot of classes, and they are all kind of very similar, and the only thing that varies is a few names. It will create a name with, here you can see the name of the Swift source is a macro name with three underscores, and you have a plist. So that's basically the simplest anatomy of an Xcode template is a source file and a plist to describe a few things about the source file. So let's look a little bit in detail what's that. So the file base name thing.swift could be as simple. Here it's a very stupid example, but let's imagine you want to create a lot of classes, and you could obviously you could go wild in whatever you want to customize that with. And the plist, the simplest plist you can have to kickstart an Xcode template, you just need one key, which is the kind key, which explains what kind of template it is. There's project templates, there's core data templates, but I haven't played with them, so I can't really tell you more about those. Here, if you can't really read, you just say text substitution. So it means that it's just going to replace some macros, substitute text for another. So you can't really build logic like if, else, or switch stuff like kind of logic. So it's not really a code generating thing. Templates is just like, it's a bit more basic than that. You can have more keys in your plist describing what kind of types of files you want to allow the user to make. So if they change the file name and instead of .swift they put .c or .m or whatever, so you can restrict that and you can say which platforms your template is geared for. But that's not so important now. Yeah, just space it so it's a bit more readable. But this is just the basic example, so it's not that important. The result is you would see this in the template window in Xcode. You would see your custom templates groups and all of your templates underneath. If you click next, it will ask you to enter a file name and a location in the project. As you would expect, it would create a basic.swift file, create the class name. No big surprises here. So that's kind of useful if you have heaps of classes with a lot of boilerplate. But still, it feels like it's just a copy-paste level of usefulness. So you could create more than one file. Nothing restricts you to having more than one file in your template. So you could imagine that you want to create like a bunch of classes that go well together. For example, like a model, a view, and a view model, and they all need to have like the same naming convention. So that would kind of make sense. You could even go wilder and have like an heterogeneous set of files. Okay. Goodbye. Please allow me to fix that issue. That's okay, just disconnect it from.
Oh, it's you, not me.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know why.
That's you.
It's me. So you could have an heterogeneous set of files. You could have like a C header file, Swift, zip file, whatever. But still, with a basic template like this, you would go through a save dialog that asks you for a file name. But now you're creating several files, so it kind of feels a bit weird. And the only input that you give as a user of the template is the file name so far. So it's not that configurable. So let's see how we can do configurable templates. When I mean configurable template, it's like for example, the CocoaTouch class template, where if you hit next, you have a new screen here where you can have drop-down menus, checkboxes, text and static text and stuff like that. So how do we do this? And yeah, if you hit next here, it's not asking you for a file name anymore because it infers that from the previous screen. So let's imagine that we want to create a template to create a model, a view, and a view model for an iOS project. Something that, for example, if you say I want to model something for a person, it would create a person.swift, person view, potentially a person view.zib, and a view model as well. So how would we go about doing something that would look like that? It would ask you, OK, what's the name of your model? What kind of type of view you want to load the view from the storyboard? You want to load the view from a zip file or write your view in code? And if you select zip in the drop-down menu, it would allow you to check or not the checkbox. So first, you would go about updating the plist. So since we are not asking for a file name, the default completion name and the allowed types are not really needed anymore. Instead, what we need is to describe the options. So as soon as you have one or more options under the options key into your plist, Xcode will start showing you a configuration screen. And what's an option? So an option is an XML dictionary that can have those keys. Probably some of them are required and some of them are optional. But basically, it just says the name, the description, the type. Probably the most important thing is the type. So you can have a checkbox, text, static text, combo, or pop-up. I haven't used them all, so I wouldn't be able to explain all of them. But an identifier, that's quite important. Default values, and an array of values if it makes sense for combo boxes or pop-up. So if we go back to, if we want to do this, we would have a text option, would have a pop-up option, and would have a checkbox option. So let's see what the model name, like the first text option, would look like. You have an identifier, you have a key that says it's required. The name is model, so that's basically the label that's going to be shown in front of the text field. The description is only if the cursor hovers over the label, it will show a tooltip. The type is text, and by default, it will pre-fill my model. Yeah, it's probably a bit more readable like this. Again, all of this, I don't think there's any official documentation in Xcode about the templating system, and it's a lot about like changing values and looking at what Apple does in their own default templates. There's one thing that is important to notice here is the product name. The name of the identifier of this first option needs to be product name, because now we are not asking for a file name. Xcode needs to figure out how it's going to name all of your files. So you need to have an option that the identifier is product name. That's just how it is. There's probably a reason somewhere, but I don't know why. The view type option is the drop-down that asks you if you want to use a storyboard or a zip file. So again, it's very similar. The type would be pop-up. You say what type of values you want to have. So I want to offer the user the choice of storyboard, zip file, or code. And here the identifier doesn't matter, so I've just put view type. And finally, the conditional checkbox. So we only want to enable the checkbox if a specific value of the previous option is enabled. So here, there's a new key required option where you say the other option, view type, when the value is zip file, you are allowed to enable the checkbox. Otherwise, just disable the checkbox. So that's a lot of XML, and it's probably better if you look at it on your own computer. So that's why I went through that pretty quickly. What's important is to understand how this all work into like finally generating the files for you. What's important to notice in a plist is you have your array of options, you have the product name, you have the view type with those values, and you have the checkbox with this identifier. The name of the identifier, I chose it. It's probably not the best name, but it's important to remember because there's no logic, there's no code running like to really generate all those files. So Xcode needs to understand when you select storyboard or zip file and you check the checkbox or not, it needs to understand where to look, which files to use. So it's going to be based on the layout of the folders in your template. So if we create a view modal and view modal.exe template, we now need to have subfolders where the names of the folders match the values of your options, the values or the identifier. So here we have 3 possible values, code, storyboard, and zip file. And then for the zip file, we have 2 other options, no checkbox, so nothing, or the checkbox, and then we put the name of, we concatenate the name of the checkbox behind it. So it's kind of a weird naming, like because my naming for the checkbox is not great, we have a folder that's zip space file, generate zip file. And it's not great, but no one's going to see that, so you can choose better names if you want. But and obviously, because in our case, all of this is purely for the view, so it means that the modal and the view modal will be the same. So it will be a lot of code duplication between those subfolders. So what I've done to fix that is I've added a base folder, whatever, where I put the actual source, and then I do a hard link of the modal and view modal, and only the view file, the view template, is different in every folder. It doesn't work with symlinks. I think Xcode doesn't see the symlinks, or something doesn't work with symlinks. I don't know. I've tried with symlinks at first, and it didn't work, and hard links work better. Well, worked at all. So for this example template, it would look like this. You have the base folder, because the name base in my specific example here doesn't match any option. Xcode doesn't see it, doesn't parse it, whatever. But then all of the others, you'll have hard links to, so the modal and view modal will be hard linked to those ones. And this one will be different with, for example, the different init. If the view is loaded in code, different init for the store. And here you have an extra file, the zip file. So it's a convention of plist and folder layout that make it all work. And we end up with something like this, and I'm going to show you how it all works. If I can re-mirror the displays. Yep. Okay. So where are we? Okay, so here, again, I should probably change the resolution. Yeah.
You can just do Shift Command plus, and it should increase the text size.
Shift Command plus. Yes, indeed. So we are here in the my local folder, my template folder. And I'll
O command is something you've set up as an alias?
What? Yeah, that's just my own terminal. And here is the, what? Yeah. So on the left, we have the file templates, which is the folder in which you need to put all of your templates. So let's create a group, CocoaHeads examples, for example. And I'll put those 2 templates that I worked on previously. So here we have the view modal and view modal template, which has the invariant sources here, and then here the actual templates that would be used. Some of them are hard links, some of them are actual different files. And what's good about this whole thing is that you don't even need to restart Xcode to load it. It just looks at it whenever you do a new file. So here we have CocoaHead examples, view model and view model. View model, yeah, that's a great name. So let's say we want to create the famous person model. So person, and we say we want a zip file, so it enables the checkbox, and I'll say, yep, create the zip file for me. You hit next. It doesn't ask you for a file name, and it just asks you for a location in your project, and you now have a great model with a lot of boilerplate that you have already set up, and a view that is customized to be instantiated from a zip. So I didn't write all the init because I did that this afternoon and I was a bit lazy, but I just changed the comment so you can see that it's not the same view file for every branch. Creates a zip file as well, and you can even edit the XML in the zip file. So where is it? Yeah, so it already knows the custom class, for example. And then you have your view model that already knows about the model itself. Yeah, so that's a more configurable template, and I think that is maybe more useful in a real life case where you may want to like have a bit of a set of files that make sense together. And let's unmirror again. Sorry, say again?
So in the template files,
yeah.
you can put the textual placements. What is that?
So if you want to have a look at the, for example, here, let's see code. And the template files will look like this. So that's the model file. The model file is the most boring, so just the class name here. The view file, it looks a bit wild because you need to get the product name and you need to say underscore, underscore, underscore variable. And I want the C identifier, macro version of that. It's a bit too much to explain for this talk.
Probably using the same system that Xcode uses. Like
Maybe. I haven't used Xcode in a while.
Xcode config files, like where the properties that if you've got an Xcode config file and you want to take a value and turn it into C identifier or uppercase or lowercase and stuff like that, it's just colon identifier kind of syntax.
Can you change the case?
Yeah, you can.
Really?
Yeah, you can. Well, you can uppercase and lowercase things.
That's pretty good because I didn't know that, and as a result, here the variable product name, blah, blah, would be person, uppercase, because that's what you've entered in the configuration. And I didn't want my my constant to be called person with an uppercase. I've just called it model. But if I could change the case, I probably would do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
I don't think you can do things like camel case. You might be able to. There's a bunch of different identifier types. Anyway, I think Cookie Spells, Sam Marshall has a blog post about all the Xcode stuff, and you might want to try.
because there is documentation for the Xcode text macro and text macro formatting, and I didn't see anything that changed the case. So maybe the Xconfig is a different engine. I don't know. Anyway, there's way more to talk actually about Xcode templates than I realized when I said, yeah, I'll do a lightning talk, and there's only 5 minutes to talk about Xcode templates, but there's actually way more, as you can tell, like about the variables and the macros and modifiers and more options that you could get and that kind of stuff. So how to get started? Copy paste. That's how I started. I looked at the default templates and started changing things, see what breaks, or you can look at the ones that I published recently for this talk, and just play with it, change the variables, and yeah, that's pretty much it. If you want to ask questions or look at the code, I'm at Etienne on Twitter and GitHub. One sec. You can call me Jet, you know that. Useful links. So the material for this talk, I wrote it down in a blog post because I realized there was much more, and I can put links, and you can click on the links rather than just look at them like this. So you can go and check. It's a 2-part article that explains what I explained there, but in greater details explain the XML, what are all the options that you can put in XML and all that kind of stuff. But if you don't even want to read the blog post, you can just go to the text macro reference, the text macro format reference, the UTIs for if you want to restrict what kind of files. But probably in the source of my blog post, there's a book that someone wrote for Xcode 4, and the templating system hasn't changed much. And it's still a pretty good book. It's dated. There's some stuff that you read and you're like, yeah, it's probably not going to work. But if you're really into Xcode templating next level, go grab this book. It's free. It's a like 50 pages PDF. You can just search through it, like if you want to look for a specific keyword. And that's it. Merci. Question?
I'm guessing there's no way to share them with other workmates on projects.
What I've done is my own templates. I've put them in a GitHub repo, and you can check out the GitHub repo into developer/xcode/template/5templates. So you could do that, and when someone updates the template, you just pull the repo. There's probably some third-party tooling to do that, maybe. Like until I think in Xcode 7 or 8, the one where we had plugins, they had a plugin to actually do that, but there's no more plugins, so.
You could have the templates in your project and just reference them. Like you could copy the templates of the script files.
Yeah, so if you want to like take a picture of just that because if you liked it and you want to read more, just go to the blog post. There's all the links and all the sources and the books and stuff like this. And that's it for Xcode templates, and the pizzas are here.